Hello and thank you for joining the Tuesday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Ozubaku. Today on the program, Governor El-Rufai set to sack local government workers, says more will have to go as Labour threatens a fight back. Federal government begs as striking judiciary workers remain adamant, cells crowded and Nigerians groan. And later on the show, Fayose finally accepts Governor Makinde as a Southwest PDP leader as his preferred candidate loses at the party congress. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Sam Ibemere. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Nice to have you join us. The governor of Kaduna State, Nasiru El-Rufai, has had it with a number of staff he has to pay salary. He has now decided to disengage workers in the states, saying government does not exist simply to pay salaries. The governor claims that the move is as a result of the dwindling financial resources, but the Nigerian Labour Congress is not having it, describing the action as arbitrary, cruel, and a violation of the fundamental and trade union rights of Kaduna State workers. The president of the NLC, Ayuba Waba, has called for a reversal of the decision. Babajide, yesterday we started with how bleak the situation looks, and that what the governor of Edo State said, that the federal government resorted to print 60 billion naira for last allocation. Now, it will definitely affect states because states might not be able to pay their workers, and Nasir El-Rufai, knowing that he's a very blunt person, so he has decided to start the process of right-sizing or downsizing in Kaduna State. And I know NLC, we have a date with the NLC officials with this, but the reality on ground is that the country is broke and it will affect the states.
Yes, I think that if we love ourselves, we must first admit that we are facing a fiscal crisis. To continue to behave like all is well is not going to do anybody any good. We've got to admit that we have a fiscal crisis on our hands and that there's a need to address that problem in the best way possible. Now, if states are carrying so much burden, there's a need to shed some of the weight that you are carrying. I always say that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu did it here in Lagos, and he did it during his first term. That's the remarkable
to consideration
that he could lose the election.
Process.
Yes, he did it during his first term. He right-sized the labor force, and today Lagos has the most responsive civil service in the whole of Nigeria. You see the quality of the civil service by even the work that gets done in Lagos and the kind of ideas.
It's not overbloated.
The ideas that the governor has to work with. He will always find the right people, because the civil service in Lagos is a fantastic one. Kudos to those who made that to happen. You can't keep, look at Kaduna, for example. Some of the local governments, El-Rufai discovered that they could not even pay the salaries of their staff without the government assisting. People, we can embark on emotional arguments all day long.
And the man is saying that government does not exist just to pay salaries.
Yes, meaning that government does not exist for just about 100,000 people and their dependents.
Maybe less than 5% of the population of the state.
Yes, because, okay, Kaduna, the population of Kaduna is in the region of 10 million. If there are just about, if you spend 96%, because it got to, there's a particular month out of the 6 months that the sampling that they did, out of those 6 months, there was a particular month when Kaduna spent 96% of what came from FAC on wages and salaries. The lowest in terms of percentage was 84. I don't think that I don't think that's a sustainable.
Will you find money to build health centers, build roads?
People have argued that, Shebi El-Rufai claimed that they get so much IGR, this and that. What is the IGR of Kaduna State? In a whole year, the IGR of Kaduna State came to 50.46 or 50.2 billion. 50.2 billion in a whole year. That's the IGR of Kaduna State. So on the average, that's like 4 billion a month. But the thing about IGR, the treacherous thing about IGR is that some months will be dry. That monthly average that you are using, you may not even get more than 1 or 2 billion. For example, in the thick of COVID, for example, where even those who ought to go out to look for money on behalf of the state, where they too were not able to go out to do their work, how are you going to generate the usual 4 billion? So now, out of that, what people fail to realize is that we have police. Federal government pays salaries of police, but almost every other thing the states have to do. They must provide the vans. They must provide logistics. States are spending so much money on security.
Petrol.
Now, so if you spend 96% of what came from FAC on salaries, you are now left with 4 billion. 4%. Let's even say 4 billion. You are left with 4 billion and about 300 or 200 and something million. The balance of the FAC. Now, out of that, you have to take care of hospitals. You have to take care of refuse evacuation. Many people don't know that refuse evacuation is one of the most capital-intensive things. Take care of refuse evacuation, take care of security. So, and then some standing orders and other. A lot of these states have debts. They have debts to pay. So, what are you going? Even that 4 billion that you think El-Rufai has done so much in terms of IGR, you will find that even that 4 billion, what you have to do may not. That 4 billion may also not be enough. So what do you then do? You have to then ask yourself. You take the big decisions. Oshomole was going to do it in those. In fact, he had done it. But elections were approaching, and they were telling, no, you cannot afford to do it. If you do it, APC will lose election. The same people that Oshomole had told to go, including blind teachers, he was forced to bring them back. Thank God, Asiwaju was not forced to bring back the people that he let go here. That is what is called strong leadership. Great leaders triumph, they thrive in moments of adversity. That's what we are seeing.
Sam, when you look at this whole equation and the way we are going, you will know that, look, it's not just sustainable. The staff salary, and one of the points Jide has made is that when you say you want to use 96% of what you have on ground to just pay like 100,000 people, and that might not represent 5 or 10% of the entire state.
That's correct, Tayo. We must admit that the fundamentals don't look good at all, and we need to take it, from the source. The money that accrues to the federal government has increasingly, diminished, and so what the states get is also a reflection of what is accruing to, the federal government. So yes, the fundamentals don't look good at all. And if you look at the facts as reeled out by Governor El-Rufai, you would want to agree with him that indeed what he had decided to do, appears to represent, the last option, But then I also have a concern, and my concern is the process leading up to, what appears to be a frustration of the objective conditions that the governor has to deal with. And what are these? What are these issues, that bother me? The governor says he doesn't need more than 50 persons in each local government, 23 local governments in the state. If you are 50, you have to go. If you are on level 14, you have to go, whether it's a case of redundancy or not. If you are on level 1 to 6, you'll be casualized. And I think that is the area that bothers me a lot. It will seem, on the surface, that the governor may have acted, arbitrarily, and that is where, the labor union is very worried. Yes, at times like this, very strong leaders will have to bite the bullet, take very tough decisions. But in doing so, you also want to be sure that you are acting within the confines of the law. And that is very important. We're not in a banana republic, okay? Yes, you have to look at what you need to do to ensure that the money that comes, to the state is managed in such a manner that you don't spend 97% of it on personnel costs. So it is important that even as the governor takes these very painful steps, he wants to ensure that he is acting within the confines of the labor law and the civil service procedures. And that for me is, is fundamental. Yes, I agree that the fundamentals don't look very good. The money accrual is nothing to write home about. But ultimately, even as these decisions are taken, even as you want to sack 4,000 workers in the local government areas, you also want to look at the executive. You're not just, you just don't want to deal with those in local government areas. You're looking at the number of persons who are working with governor himself. Is he also considering shedding the load at that level? Is he also thinking of managing costs, cutting costs? Agreed, El-Rufai as a technocrat is one who has a very high pedigree when it comes to taking very tough decisions. And we want to see him, act in similar manner, not just at local government level, but also within the executive. And in doing so, let us be mindful of the fact that we have to act within the law. If you want to treat this category of staff as being redundant, then let the Labor Act prevail and let the civil service rule also be taken into consideration.
Okay, Jide, let me bring you to what Sam has just said. Now, we are in a very, very precarious situation. And by the time you want to look at what the law, what you have in the books and everything, we are talking about a state that is facing, or states that might be facing insolvency, or a government that may be facing insolvency, that this painful decision that should be taken legally, that it shouldn't be seen to be irrational in their decision. But ultimately, they can't get results if they don't take those rash decisions.
First and foremost, let me clarify that the story that 4,000 people have been sacked is a lie. 4,000 persons have not been sacked. What I can confirm is the government has made clear its decision to shed weight.
I trust El-Rufai will do it.
The government has made up its mind to shed weight. The issue of 4,000 people told to go is not true.
Substantiated.
Yes, it's not true. Government has come out to say no. This is a plan. It's a plan that we are talking about. So it's not as if they've already told you.
Yes, sure.
Now, Jema local government, if we even look at it this way, Jema local government has said 83 persons should go. They have done.
Okay, one of the local governments.
Yes. If you go by, there are 23 local governments in Kaduna. If you go by the figure from Jema and you say, okay, 83, let's even assume that you say, okay, 83 times 23. It's even not up to 2,000. So it's not as if he has already sacked 4,000 persons. No, that has not happened. But he has made clear that there is a need to shed weight.
That this is not sustainable.
Yes, that this, what Labour always doesn't want to hear is that there will be. You saw what happened here in Lagos. At some point they had to use tear gas and all that. Even the case went to court. The truth is,
Because Labour is not even ready to look at
Labour
the
does
reason
not even
behind it.
think that you must let anybody go. And we have some agencies, even the federal civil service, where you could have 20 drivers and there are only 9 cars in the pool. It means that some people are redundant. I don't subscribe to the idea that tactics that the private sector uses in ensuring that they stay afloat
I know.
are no-go areas
For the
in the public service.
Yes.
This is the sentiment that we have, and things are nearly collapsing on our heads.
The private sector
You
is
look
something
at
they do every day.
let me say something that I know that many Nigerians don't know. In Nigeria today, the state that has the highest wage bill, the third highest wage bill, is Benue State.
Civil servants.
Benue
Civil
State.
service.
After Lagos and Rivers, Benue State is third. Does it make any sense for Benue to be third?
Commiserate, it's not commiserate with their IGR or their allocation they collect.
The IGR is almost non-existent there. So you just find that when Benue receives in the region of what Kaduna receives, for example, and salaries are paid, what this governor, the governor who is there now, since the time of the recession when he was owing salary, he has consistently now paid, that was the first recession, he has consistently now paid salary for 3 years. He's paid salary now for 3 years consistently, every month, but there were some areas that he inherited from the former administration. The former administration, Suswan,
sorry.
the former administration increased salaries of workers across board. That is where that idea of being taught in the country arose from. Now, that governor cannot wake up and say, I want to send people packing, or I want to go back to what people used to earn. Kano is trying to do that. Have you seen that Kano is trying to say, okay, 50%. Go back to the old minimum wage? It's not every governor who would think that that is right. I also do not think that that is right. To say, okay, because Kano first said, look, we cannot pay your full wages. We are all journalists. We read it when Kano said, we can't pay in full. Now, Labour in Kano has agreed that, okay, you can pay us the old, this is so long as you don't sack people. The old minimum wage has already been overtaken by inflation and all that. So it's a choice.
Double-digit inflation.
Governor El-Rufai was the first governor to pay the new minimum wage. That's on record. Since 2019, he was the first to pay the minimum wage. Now, he does not want to go back to say, okay, let us go back to what people used to earn. I believe that strong leadership is one of the big problems that we have. We lack it.
To be able to take decisions.
Take the big decision. Even the president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, it was one of the first things that he did. He cut wages, including his own. Why is it so difficult? We are saying that, look, the excess weight that the states are carrying, they can't continue to carry this excess weight. They can't. Because we are all relying on petrodollar, this and that. But everyone can see now that the world is even moving away from crude oil.
Honestly.
Fossil fuel is becoming yesterday's thing. And before our eyes, if we don't begin to look inwards,
diversification has started.
Look, the way we run our states, I'm saying that nobody, a Dangote, for example, as rich as he is, he will not be so generous as to run his private enterprise the way we are running states. That's why we have this situation. The problem that we are facing, we want a situation in which we will be taking loans to pay salaries. If we get to that situation,
That's the end.
So the point, he has not sacked for 4,000 people, but he has made up his mind to let people go.
That is the solution.
Look at what he said, that COVID-19 has shown that you really don't need as much people as you have. That is a fact. That's a fact. Some are not even working. Some working from home. Some of the people who need to be physically present at work were not even working from home. yet the state got by without them. Is the thing to do is let labor be aware that this is inevitable. Call labor, let them make input. I know that because of the need to be politically correct, labor will always say, no, we don't even want that. But it's inevitable. We just can't continue. The other day, we had Adokojo Uwela who struggled. She got us debt forgiveness. Where are we now? We are back to that same situation again.
Trillions.
We just have to show leadership and discipline across board. I don't think it should even end with Kaduna State. I told you that I encourage a governor who had 2,500 aides.
Doing what?
He said he had sacked 1,000. I said, Mr. Governor, you can sack more, sir. You can sack more. He said if he sacks them, that politically they will crush him, because a lot of those people were...
For patronage.
Yes. And you know where they always dump those people is the local governments. That's where a lot of redundant people...
for productive...
Why is it that some states have done this biometric exercise to ascertain valid staff, and they discovered that even some of those staff were not even based in the state? Kogi is an example. When they were doing verification, they discovered that some of them were far away. Some were in Kwara and other places. They were not even working. But once it's time to collect salary, they will show up and just come and collect salary.
All right. I have Kesandu from Imo State calling us. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, everybody. You see, while I appreciate that, yes, we have some workers who are not actually doing anything but wants to earn salary every month. But who is to be blamed? You see that most of our governors, the major challenge we're having is that some of them do not even understand what leadership is. Who is to be blamed? Babajide said something. You might have 10 drivers, but you see just 5 cars. Then who is responsible for the not provision of the cars? And you see that some of our public servants that are supposed to go for assignments, but they do not have even the cars to go. Let me tell you, if somebody is saying, if you people are saying that we don't need COVID-19, I understand that we don't need this number of workers. Do we need 306 senators, House of Reps members? Do we need 109 senators in the National Assembly? What are they actually even doing for us? So the truth about it is, I think our governor should think outside the box. If you're giving this position not to impoverish the people more, think. Create an enabling environment. Let people come up. We can take some of these people to other sectors.
Thank you, Kesandu. Julie says something that, look, that the private sector, when they take this kind of decision, I work in an organization, and when it's time to take decision, they take that decision. It does not matter what the Nigerian journalists, to save the company. It doesn't matter what. And the same thing goes to every private concern. When you look at the books,
I think that is that fact is given, okay, and that is why a lot of people, myself inclusive, have advocated that the philosophy that drives corporate Nigeria should be extended to running our government, because you see a lot of seriousness at that level. You see a lot of compliance. You see a lot of transparency. You don't get to find that in the public service, and that is what is missing. Okay.
We'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back. It's your multi-winning award program, Journalist Hangout, reaching you live from TVC News, the best TV station of the year. And the federal government is pleading with striking members of the Judicial Staff Union of Nigeria, JUSUN, to end their nationwide industrial action, which has paralyzed activities in Nigeria's courts for the past 1 week. Nigerians are beginning to groan, feeling the effects of an absent judiciary.
We are apprehending this dispute as per the labor laws of the country, and you people are judicial workers. So if any group of people will break the law of the land, it will not be you. So we will agree here today. If we have disagreement, we will disagree, but later we will agree on one thing, and that is that the dispute should be suspended. The industrial action should be suspended.
And we observe that the particular provision of the Constitution which grants the financial autonomy to the judiciary has never been regarded as much as it's supposed to be. Having agitated for so long for the needful to be done and it's not done, we went to court in 2014. I mean, before then we got judgment. Before 2014 we were in court, permit me. And by 2014 we got the judgment. We were patient. And we were not lawless people because we work in a sector where the rule of law is the bane of our operation. So, but to our amazement, since we went on strike 2015 particularly, the government ceased not to hear us until now.
That's members of the Jusan and Babajide. In court, we have activities have been paralyzed in court, and the effects is like we have a situation whereby the cells are overcrowded and Nigerians are groaning. And I never knew that Jusan could be this, powerful.
Of course, they are powerful because not even the Supreme Court can sit. The Supreme Court can sit when the workers are not at work. They are in fact going to shut the whole place. But I believe that this is the right move. I support their strike, absolutely. I'm against the conduct of governors who are in complete disregard of the Constitution. Because the Constitution is clear that the executive cannot be in custody of the finances of the judiciary. You must release their funds to the heads of courts. At the federal level, that gets done. President Buhari does not hold on to the funds of the judiciary. The funds go to the heads of the courts. But at state level, governors are the custodians of the finances of the judiciary against the constitutional provision, Section 21, Section 3, Section 81, Section 3. And we are not doing anything about it. So if these fellows have taken it upon themselves to then drive home the point that this cannot continue, I cannot be in disagreement with the steps that they have taken. I listened to the Minister of Labour saying that they shouldn't be involved in what they are doing, that it is being addressed. You must tell them that their demands are being addressed. You must tell them in concrete terms what is being done. Governors who walked up to the president after the president gave the executive order on June 5 and told the president that there was a need to reverse. You will see clearly from the governors that were in attendance at that meeting with the president that governors overwhelmingly have made up their minds that they will not let this autonomy of the judiciary see the light of day. We had my friend Governor Tambua from Sokoto State. He is the leader of the PDP Governors Forum. He was there. We had Kaude Fayemi, our friend, the governor of Ekiti State. He is the chairman of the Governors Forum. We had Bagudu. Atiku Bagudu, the governor of Kebbi State. APC, or is a Progressive Governors Forum, what do they call themselves? He was there. So those three governors represented all the groups,
all the interests,
all the tendencies within the Nigerian 36 governors. So you can see clearly they made up their minds that no, this thing shouldn't be taken from us. But that is what the Constitution says. You are disobeying the Constitution. And if you keep disobeying the Constitution, you ought to go to jail. We can't continue to trample on the letters of our Constitution. It may be painful that this strike is on, but increasingly, Nigerian leaders, strike is the language that they understand. Without strike, it seems clearly that they have the hands-free gadget permanently in their ears. So they don't listen. it appears that this is the language that they understand. That's why these guys have embarked on this measure. So Dr. Chris Ngige should be telling us what is being done. They lost in court, they never appealed. So is it the person who lost now that should go to court again to complain that, these people have refused to obey the directive of the court? So what is the federal government doing currently? What options are open to President Buhari, having tried the option of the Executive Order 10, and these guys have come to him to say no? Governors are behaving like gods in our country. The president is now made to look like, the only area that he controls is the FCT. I mean, this is wrong. Go ahead, obey the court order. You lost in court.
Now we have a situation whereby ourselves are now crowded, because of the economic situation. There's the crime rates might have, increased, and the cells, the prisons are overcrowded as a result of maybe the adjournments, those people that are meant to be granted bail, those people that are meant to be sentenced and everything. So this is like the ripple effect.
Yes, Ayo, you've just hit the nail on the head. Ordinarily, we have a lot of tardiness within our judicial system. Several cases of people are waiting trial, backlog of cases running to years. Some cases are as old as 20, 30 years, and they've not been concluded. Now you add that to almost 2 weeks of our courts being shut down. You can then begin to do the arithmetic of it. So a lot of people who ordinarily should have their case, being tried, are not, getting justice as it were. And while the courts, have been shut down, our prisons or correctional centers are being, thrown open. More criminals are out there. You don't even know who to run away from. So it's a natural outcome, that we're going to have a lot of backlogs. Even when the courts are reopened, it will take a while, for the processes, to take shape. And that's our concern here. And that also explains why some of us are really very worried when government says, please call off the strike. On what grounds do you want to call off the strike? Jude has asked, that question. There are really no basis. You just want to be emotional about it.
The problem.
So you've got to address the problem. And I think that what
the president should call a meeting with those governors and say, gentlemen, look at what is happening.
Jide, I think it just speaks to the joke we have made of our democratic institutions. That is just the truth. Okay, I read somewhere that the governors have agreed to meet with Jusun maybe Wednesday. I'm not so sure, but the guys are saying we cannot attend to this appeal because we are not even sure that the governors who have agreed to meet with us on a Wednesday, if we call off the strike, will commit themselves to any meeting. Because there is that trust, there's that integrity gap in the entire system. So we have on our hands a major crisis that we ordinarily should address. If we have committed ourselves to running democratic institutions, then we should obey every tenet of it. I mean, if you went to court and lost and you've not appealed, it simply means that you have agreed, to what the judicial order or pronouncement is.
A long time ago.
Since 2014.
Why must we wait till things degenerate like this before government will act? Now we have several other unions threatening to strike, go on strike, or are currently on strike. And why must that be the last resort? That is when the government will now budge.
Let me give you an example. We can accuse resident doctors and other people of going on strike, it is wrong, this and that. But in 2017, government took the decision that house officers, that's resident doctors in training, that there should be a central unit that posts them to different states, places where they can do their service, more or less like NYC. Since that time, nothing. No. The last strike by these doctors, they issued a notice in January that by March 31st.
Since January?
Yes.
They give it 2 months?
Yes. They said by March 31st, if you do not address social issues, including the paltry, the miserly 5,000 naira hazard allowance that we're paying to them. Many doctors have lost their lives on account of trying to save lives during COVID.
To do what as
many doctors have lost their lives. Frontline workers, saving lives. That's what you are paying them. They said, okay, move this thing to 50% of basic salary. They issued a notice in January and said March 31st. They waited until that March 31st.
Because the difference.
They didn't do anything until those guys went on strike. We always wait. We always think, look, this just empty gas. Let them make a noise. Nothing will happen. When they now show that they mean business, we now start running helter-skelter. We now say, look, why are you going on strike?
No work, no pay.
Why are you? If we first threaten them with no work, no pay. When those guys show that, look, they too, they have aroma, they will now know that clearly no work, no pay will not achieve anything. Because workers who are resolute, you cannot threaten them. You can't threaten them. You can't do the work yourself. When did you even practice last as a doctor? You know? So this is the thing. It's our attitude that allows strikes to happen. It's the attitude of government. When you go into agreement with people, agree on those things that you can do.
And you'll be honorable.
They do not put a gun to your neck. If you are unable to fulfill your obligation, then don't go into such agreement. Once you go into those agreements, you are obligated to meet your own end of the bargain. So when you don't do it, then they'll get angry, then they'll go on strike. Why won't they go on strike? This Jusun thing is an attempt to give strength to our constitution, to validate the primacy of our constitution. That's why I support the idea. So blackmailing the president after I gave an executive order is wrong. Because governors now see themselves as too powerful. The president ought to call the governors. He's the father of the nation. Call the governors and say, see, look at what you have caused. Look at the implication of this strike. Now we've got to implement the executive order 10. If we do not do it, then the Accountant General of the Federation will send the money straight to the heads of court in the respective states. That's the thing. That's what the president's the article executive order stipulates. So the president should call them instead of watching people suffer. Should call them and tell them that look at what your actions have caused. Now we have to resolve this matter. But not to simply tell them don't go back home, don't go on strike. Then what would they have achieved? What would they tell their members that they achieved? If they simply went home, they told them, go home, don't worry, go home. People have learned not to even go home when they are told to go home. They want to see what you are going to do for them in concrete terms. People have learned that lesson.
All right. Finally, we have always said on this program that politics, there's no permanent friend or enemy. That's in politics. Months after the leadership tussle between the former governor of Ekiti State, Ayodele Fayose, and the current governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, the two have decided to shield their swords. Those supporting different candidates for the PDP Southwest chairmanship election, the duo agreed to accept its outcome. Ex-Governor Fayose, Ayodele Fayose, has also acknowledged Seyi Makinde as the leader of the People's Democratic Party in the Southwest.
It all started with fanfare in front of the venue of the Congress in Osogbo. Campaign intensified for different candidates by their supporters. There is presence of combined security operatives to maintain law and order. Then follows the arrival of leader of the party in the Southwest, Governor Seyi Makinde, and others. And later, accreditation of delegates, numbering 743, who had come from the 6 Southwest states. Electoral materials were taken into the hall in the presence of journalists. Both Governor Seyi Makinde and former Governor Ayodele Fayose addressed the delegates.
So whatever the outcome is, we'll take it in the spirit of a family contest.
Show you that together we will make exploit. This was not divide us. I stand here to tell you today, either way it goes, I will accept it.
Fayose admitted publicly that Governor Seyi Makinde remains the leader of the party in the region, and this doused tension among delegates.
This Congress is a circumstantial issue. And it's been in the public domain. Who is the leader? Governor Seyi Makinde is our leader.
After the voting, which lasted for about 3 hours, sorting began and results announced. Taufik Arapaja carried the day with a slim margin.
Ambassador Taufik Arapaja, having scored the highest votes cast, is hereby declared the winner.
But I thank God that we are able to win, to say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Rahman Owukoniran also emerged the zonal secretary of the party. Edi Olafeso had promised to congratulate and work with Taufik Arapaja if he emerges.
And if I win, I celebrate and bring everybody together. If I lose, I congratulate the winner and walk on with my life, because all powers belong to God.
The race is now over, and it is expected that members of the party will work together as promised. Rafiu Hamid, TVC News, Osogbo.
Ordinarily, this is just a state congress. I was telling my correspondent in Osun State yesterday that since I've been covering politics, this kind of congress, they just come on a day of election, like affirmation. Each party, all the stakeholders, they would have divided, okay, you take 5 positions, you take 4 positions. They just come, just do the normal thing and everything. It's not meant to be as competitive as this. But the friction between Governor Fayose, former Governor Fayose, and Seyi Makinde raised the stakes. So it was like battle of supremacy for the soul of PDP within the Southwest.
Ayo, that is correct, and you want to put this in proper perspective. Ordinarily, there shouldn't be, a contest, to determine who is the leader of the PDP in the Southwest. But you have a Fayose who feels that
he's a
baby governor. I was going to come to that. That given where he is coming from, having
been governor since 2003
for 8 years, and Makinde is just starting up, and he just felt that he should give him a run for his money. And in politics, it's an interest-driven game, so it should be expected. But what I see clearly from the pictures I have watched is that we seem to have had a very quiet, calm, election.
Matured.
And very matured. And all contestants came out and considered victory.
At the end of the day.
And you want to pray and hope that this is the way our politics should be played. At the higher levels, without bitterness, without acrimony and all that. So kudos to PDP for having shown this level of maturity in organizing themselves. We want to see that translate into higher levels. But like I said, it's an interest-driven game.
They go into the national convention now. That's with the next stage. But it's noteworthy that Fayose actually gave Seyi Makinde a run for his money. 13 votes difference between the delegates.
I want to see contests. I prefer contest to affirmation or this Baba said so please. I want to see contest. And I'm happy that this contest produced a winner. Fayose said he was not going to, that he was not comfortable with Ibadan. as venue of the election. They said, how about Lagos? He said, no, that his life was not safe in Lagos. They said, how about Ogun State? He said, no, that he doesn't think he's safe. They said, okay. Then they said Oshogbo. And in Oshogbo, he was defeated. You see, when you talk about the order that happened, I mean, the orderliness that typified that election, you cannot get into the hall unless you had valid identification.
Yes.
Even Governor Seyi Makinde had to introduce himself with his driver's license.
Yes.
That's to tell you the seriousness that they attached to the thing. And things went on, and the governor's friend, Olafeso, lost. Olafeso was a good friend of Governor Makinde, but the governor supported a different person.
Ambassador Rakwaja.
Yes, a two-time ambassador to Jordan, ambassador to Iraq, supported him. In his view, Arakwaja is now a different person. Age has calmed him down. He's a much more somber person than the
Arakwaja we used to know as the deputy governor.
Yes, than the years of
Adedibu.
No, the years of Lawakala.
Yes.
No, so that's the person that he has invested his faith in. I congratulate them because look, the Northwest chapter.
Yes, sir.
They could not have the Congress.
Yeah.
They chased each other all over the place. It was violence that characterized their own. So it didn't happen in the Northwest, and the violence even spilled from Kano to Kaduna. So maybe on a later date they are going to have that. So for them to have had this, despite all the brickbats that Fayose and Seyi Makinde had exchanged before now, it's ended on a good note, and the PDP can build on this platform to have a stronger party. And I think this is also a lesson to other parties too. You can actually have a free, fair, and openly transparent process. As we have seen here. The most popular candidate has won. The shame of this contest is the fact that money changed hands once again. We have to rescue. We have to rescue our country. Factor. If we don't get that factor out of our politics, we are doomed. Even our children are doomed. It shouldn't be people who have money that can win elections. Let people vote their conscience. Let people not be guided by how much money are they going to give me. Because even here, they are sharing money to people. It's such a massive shame that it has now
contest.
Yes, within the geopolitical zone. And we are sharing money. It means that sharing of money, we cannot do election again in our country without sharing money.
Money
in the brazen manner that we are doing it. Look, it was not like this before. Some people introduced this thing into our politics, and now it appears that it has come to stay. EFCC threatened that, look, they were going to arrest people during the election in...
they have the manpower.
How many people did they arrest at the end of the day? They created the little cubicle so that you will not see who your
secret ballots.
That person was voting for.
Yes.
But somehow we keep people are allowed to stay there spying on other people who are taking money from them.
You've even completed.
You showed them to say, look, I didn't just take your money. I didn't just take your money. I voted. People now go to the extent, as we saw in Osun, people now go to the extent of even swearing with Ogun, swearing with Dengon. Yes, jumping over Dengon to swear that, look, if I don't vote for you, after taking this money, I'm going to die by accident, this and that. Because of what?
5,000 naira.
5,000 people I mean, the people who came up with this, they should be ashamed of themselves. Look at what they have visited on all of us. Look, even now, even ordinary non-election now, people must bring money. People must be paid.
Gunshots. There was exchange of gunshots. Last non-election.
What kind of political culture?
The stakes are high. Do you see
a terrible political culture?
Do you see the official car attached to the announced president? Now you understand why the stakes are high.
Well, I do, honestly.
I want to thank you, Sam Ibimere.
Thank you very much, Ayo. My pleasure.
Contribution. And BKO, thank you for always being there.
Oh, wow.
And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11. And don't forget on Journalist Hangout on Sunday, that's Sunday edition of Journalist Hangouts. For those of you who will be watching via our platform DSTV 418, GoTV 45 from 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. That's exclusively to our DSTV and other platforms, not our terrestrial station, would not be joining on Sunday. So between 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. Well, youtube.com/TVC News, Nigeria. I'm Mayo Delu Zuwaku. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.